Scott, how do you feel about the fact that I remake your games in full HD? Positive or negative? Good. I don't think Scott said that. I don't think that's really Scott Cawthon. I don't think Scott Cawthon is hanging out in Discord servers belonging to Russian fan game devs. What the f? Dark Hazy is a scary game. In this scary game, you are trapped in a haunted house. To get rid of this house, To get rid of this house, you need to solve the mystery of the house. Try to move forward without fear of hosts and spirits. Search everywhere, find clues, and escape from the house. This is the grand follow-up to Lazada Pelotti's incredible bootleg version of Five Nights at Freddy's 4. My friends, I present to you Escape FNAFenons, otherwise known as FNAFENO. Horror story. I love the look on all of their faces, like they just know something is wrong. Freddy is looking up at the FNAFENO title near the top like, guys, are we at the right shoot? And Gregory's like, I'm calling my agent. Meanwhile, Roxy and Monty are just posing like, yeah, whatever, any spotlight is good spotlight, right? Sure, we'll pose for this FNAFENO thing or whatever. Meanwhile, Chica's just like, ah! And Vanny's just sitting there like, I don't even know what's going on, man. While browsing the Xbox store, my friend and fellow YouTuber Nightmare Keys came across a very strange game. It looked like Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, and it featured Glamrock Freddy and Gregory. The screenshots didn't look especially Security Breach-like, but okay, I guess, cool. I guess they released a FNAF game on the Xbox One without telling anybody. I kid, of course. The game is a bootleg. It's illegal. You can't take Scott's intellectual property and trademarks, stick it on your game, and call it FNAFENO. Even crazier is that this is on the Xbox store. Sure, the famous Lazada Pelotti FNAF 4 scandal occurred, but that was on the iOS App Store in the mid-2010s. It's not the same thing as the Xbox Store today. Not knowing what to expect, I prepared to experience FNAFENO. Or is it called Escape FNAFenons? Or maybe it's called Dark Hazy? I don't know. The game looks surprisingly polished when you first launch it. There's a solid menu with a couple of useful options and even a graphics settings window. The loading screen reads, FNAF, Horror, Fear. Find hidden object. Carefully move. Don't die. I was excited to see the FNAF horror fear that lied ahead. The game immediately drops you off in this spooky, haunted house thing with creepy paintings everywhere. Then everything goes absolutely insane. We pick up some bananas for some reason before a scripted sequence causes everything to shake and go crazy. We then get an objective: locate the electrical box and turn on the power again. We pick up some petrol oil and light a lamp before grabbing an herb off the floor. All of that happens in the first 10 seconds of the game. We climb up some boxes to access a vent and pull it out, only to find that it uses realistic physics. As a result, the vent got stuck right between me and the box I needed to jump to, which made it impossible to actually access the vent. Seriously, I have minutes of footage of just trying to jump into this vent. I guess that's kinda like Security Breach. Finally, we make it. We crawl through. Alright, this is where the FNAF stuff comes in, right? Here's where Music Man chases us through the vent, or Freddy pops out and starts doing spooky stuff, right? Nope, some more box puzzles. Another one of those godforsaken grates. Ugh. There's still no FNAF. What about this is FNAF? Or FNAFENO, or whatever. Ah, a secret bookcase leading to the basement. This is it. Finally, this must be where the animatronics and the FNAF stuff comes in. I mean, Gregory is on the game's title page, so surely Gregory will make an appearance too, right? It was then that I made a shocking discovery. Upon examining this note, I saw the following. Horror Kit Classified. Dear customer, we are glad you bought the Horror FPS Kit as the base for your horror game. It is an advanced, easy-to-use horror game template with many features essential to creating your own horror game, including gameplay features seen in AA horror games of the last decade. Oh my gosh. For those who are unfamiliar, this is called an asset flip. Engines like Unity and Unreal have asset stores where developers can buy and sell existing assets to use in their games. This could be something as simple as a tree or an exploding barrel, but it could also be something as large as a building or even a level. There's nothing inherently wrong with buying an asset. Sometimes it's just way more efficient to buy someone else's fire hydrant for $2 rather than model and texture the thing yourself. Pre-bought assets can be really useful tools for indie developers as long as they take the efforts to properly integrate them into their game. Choo Choo Charles, a highly anticipated upcoming open-world indie horror title's entire island overworld was purchased as an asset. However, developer Gavin then went on to make substantial modifications to the island, terraforming it, adding railroad tracks, and building an entire game on top of it. This is a great example of how pre-bought assets should be used. Some asset packs are more like a demo of a game. They're playable from the get-go, almost like a little tutorial map that teaches the developer all of the asset's features. The idea is that a developer will use this as the basis for their own unique game. They'll take advantage of the existing assets and built-in systems, but they'll create something new from them. Unfortunately, there's an unscrupulous type of developer who will simply buy these game kits, make absolutely no modifications, and then immediately upload them to storefronts like Steam and Xbox. That seems to be the case for FNAFENO. Some jerk bought this first-person horror game kit, then uploaded it to the Xbox store with a bunch of Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach stuff around it. The intention is obvious. Security Breach is only out for PC and PlayStation. It's not on Xbox. Thus, kids or parents who don't know any better will type FNAF into the storefront, be greeted with this FNAFENO, or Escape FNAFions, or FNAFENO Horror Story, or whatever it is game. They'll think it's Five Nights at Freddy's, and they'll be duped into buying it for themselves or their kids or whatever. They want the search engine optimization benefits. They show up at the top when kids type in FNAF. It's a pretty grimy tactic considering these games actually cost money, and refunding is not always a simple process. Considering the game is a pure 100% asset flip, there are absolutely no FNAF characters, settings, or plot elements anywhere. It's a game kit. It's literally designed to be the most generic thing possible, so that developers can easily modify and extend it to fit into their own original designs. I honestly feel quite bad for the naive kids that got this game thinking it was Security Breach or something, only to find that it was FNAFENO. That's messed up. You're probably wondering, how does this even happen? How does Xbox, a major player in the gaming world, ever approve a game like FNAFENO? It's obviously not FNAF, it's obviously not made or endorsed by Scott, and after a few moments of gameplay it becomes obvious that it's an asset flip. It's not even a game. The truth is, it's very hard to police one's content like this, and there will always be malicious games that slip through the cracks. There are tons of developers ripping off the FNAF franchise for a quick buck, and it's even happening right here within our own fan game scene. People are distributing pirated copies of the FNAF games as well as their source code on GameJolt of all places. You can go to GameJolt right now and download HD versions of FNAF 1 through 4 absolutely free. Even worse, the creator has packaged the source code of the games on the pages, and looking through it, it's abundantly clear that all they did was replace the images. All of Scott's proprietary, copyright-protected code is still there. There's nothing inherently wrong with decompiling a game. It's against ClickTeam's license agreement, yeah, and they can revoke your right to use their software if you do it, but it's not illegal. ClickTeam aren't the cops. Legally, it's pretty similar to buying a game, creating a ROM from it, and then running it on an emulator. Nintendo won't be happy with you, but you haven't committed a crime. If you can put in the work to do it, then that's on you. However, some less ethical people will happily pirate a game, decompile it, rebuild it with maybe a tweak or two, if at all, and then distribute it. This is obviously illegal, and it's not ethical at all. It's especially bad if they're charging money for these mods of FNAF. This GameJolt account claims to do HD remakes of the classic FNAF games, then releases them for free on GameJolt. You can see why this isn't okay. Why would anyone spend money buying the actual FNAF releases from Scott when they can just download this HD one from GameJolt for free? It's not like this game is worse than the official ones in any way either. It's the exact same game. The developer claims he reverse engineered the games, which implies that he played the game a lot and thoroughly analyzed its systems before recreating them all from the ground up. This is a lie. If we compare the code they used in their FNAF 3 MFA to the code that's actually used in the real FNAF 3 that Scott released, we can see that they're identical. The exact same names, the same order, and even the missing icon at the top left, which would only be missing if the project was built from a decompiled version of FNAF. When looking at the objects in the HD remake, we can see that most of them haven't had thumbnails generated, which means that the developer never even opened them. They didn't touch them. There's zero doubt in my mind that these games were not re-engineered from the ground up. They're just FNAF with some higher resolution images and nothing else changed. Even the mistakes Scott has in his own FNAF code made their way into these remakes, so it's pretty hard to argue otherwise. Upon being asked if Scott had given the developer permission to make these HD remakes, the developer posted the fake screenshot with which I opened this video. YouTube viewer, how do you feel about hitting the subscribe button on my channel? Good. Thank you so much. He suggested that Scott had given his blessing to decompile the FNAF games, make a tweak or two, and then re-upload them for free on GameJolt. This was obviously nonsense. That wasn't Scott, and Scott surely would not be okay with this. It's a doctored screenshot. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, it's lame that this developer is stealing Scott's work and redistributing it, and yeah, that takes away from FNAF sales that should rightfully go to Scott. However, the developer frequently solicits donations for their work. Sure, the games aren't being sold, but once you start asking for money to support your endeavors, you're profiting off of them. That's not okay. That's not your work to benefit from. GameJolt really needs to get their act together. Scott has taken fan games down before, but he can only do so much. Fiznom's FNAF open source was taken down, but probably only because it gained traction, and even then, the game wasn't a flip. It was actually a game, a re-engineering of FNAF 2 built from the ground up. These HD remakes are not. These are small titles that go under the radar, and Scott can't possibly catch all of them on his own. GameJolt clearly needs better systems and moderation in place to find these kinds of instances and remove them. While it's technically not their responsibility, and yes, they'll absolutely remove any game Scott wants if he asks, it's just not realistic for Scott to have to go through every game in GameJolt, determining which are infringing on his rights and which aren't. These remakes were brought to GameJolt's attention weeks ago, but nothing has been done. My fear is that if these games continue to be uploaded to GameJolt, Scott may one day decide that it's just not worth it. And while he's obviously supportive of actual fan games, I really don't want to see this get to the point where he throws his hands up and just tells GameJolt, no more FNAF fan games. I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon, but it's important that we as a community reject these games that are obviously having some impact on the series' sales. If GameJolt wants to be taken seriously as a marketplace, and if they want people to be confident spending money on there for paid non-fan games, they need to figure out a way to cut back on this stolen content. Its presence takes attention away from actual fan games that were built from the ground up out of passion. People aren't going to be comfortable giving their credit cards and money to a site where piracy is rampant, or where the page for the game they just spent money on could suddenly disappear overnight because the owner got banned. I brought FNAFENO to the Xbox Store's attention, and it was taken down, which is good. I know some of you will be disappointed because you'd have liked to play this yourself, but it's for the best. There are parents and kids out there who don't know any better, and removing the game ensures that they won't be ripped off by this. Nobody should lose their $5 to this, and honestly, Xbox should probably refund at least their cut of this game's sales revenue to the people who bought it. Not to mention, while the PC version runs smoothly, the Xbox version of FNAFENO is abysmal. There's horrible screen tearing constantly and a really choppy frame rate. The game is by no means ready for release, and Xbox should have never allowed it to be sold on their platform. FNAF's IP gets ripped off all the time. FNAFENO is a particularly egregious example, but there are many others. On one hand, Scott encourages the community to make derivative projects that were inspired by his series. On the other, he has to have control over his IP, and by allowing so much freedom within the fan game community, he unfortunately has to deal with bad actors taking advantage of his generally pro-fan game stance. I think it says a lot that the Xbox Store removed FNAFENO mere hours after it was reported. Meanwhile, these FNAF HD remakes were reported weeks ago, several times, and yet they're still up there. I know GameJolt is obviously nowhere near the size and maturity of something like Xbox, but I do think that they need to figure something out here. I want to see more fan games, and I want to see GameJolt grow into a really professional, robust platform for said fan games. Non-fan games too. And to the community, please don't take advantage of GameJolt's lack of oversight. If people keep doing this, Scott may very well clamp down on the fan game scene in general and put an end to the whole thing. Historically, fan game scenes were fractured. There wasn't a singular place you could go to find quality ones. I love the idea that GameJolt is trying to become that place, and I really don't want to see it fail. They just need to do better. Thanks for watching.